The wind was a taut string humming against the carabiners at Ren Okada's waist as she hauled herself onto the ice-crusted lip of the ridge. Dawn had not yet split the sky, but a sheath of violet twilight made the limestone slabs glimmer like hidden glass. No map marked this place, no satellite image identified the prominence that local yak herders called simply the High Silence. For 3 weeks, Ren, her oldest friend, Mara Diaz, and sponsor climber Jules Carrick had threaded moraines, serac mazes, and one avalanche chute to stand here. They planned to name the peak together. Ren planted her axe, breathing through a buff stiff with frost, and cast a glance downslope. Headlamps bobbed in the darkness. Jules's beam jerked in quick, impatient arcs as he negotiated a knife-edge traverse, while Mara's light floated more steadily behind him. Ren keyed the radio. 50 meters to the false summit, she said. Then we see what's next. Static and Jules's laugh answered. What's next is champagne and magazine covers, Captain. Mara's softer voice followed, a little breathless. And coffee. Don't forget coffee. Ren smiled, anchored her fears, and moved on. At 6,700 meters, senses rearrange, air thins, the heart becomes a clumsy drummer, the brain strips language to noun and verb, step, breathe, step, breathe. Yet, as Ren crested the false summit and set foot on a plateau of wind-blown snow, a piercing lucidity threaded her thoughts. Something out there was quietly awake. She uncoiled rope to belay the others. When Jules and Mara arrived, they, too, paused. Ahead, less than a kilometer away, the true summit rose, a shark-finned spire of pale rock. But it was not the shape that stunned them. It was the hush. No whirl of katabatic wind, no groan of cornice, no whisper of drifting powder, only a faint, ringing stillness, as if sound itself had frozen. Jules whistled, testing the air. Weird acoustics. Nothing returned. Even an echo needs something to bounce off, Mara said, voice muted by the buff. Maybe the ridge geometry? No, Ren interrupted, without knowing why. It's listening. They stood like trespassers outside a locked chapel until Jules' hunger for glory broke the trance. Let's finish this, he said, beginning to coil their shared line. Weather window closes by afternoon. Ren nodded, and the three set out across the plateau. Snow crunched beneath crampons softly, as though muffled by cotton. Ren imagined walking inside the head of a sleeping giant, each footfall careful not to wake it. Halfway to the base of the spire, they reached a couloir that plunged into blue shadow. Ren hammered pickets and instructed Mara to belay while she and Jules simul-climbed. The plan was efficient. Ren would lead, place protection, and Jules Lighter, quick with mixed rock, would push from the last belay to the top, dragging the honor of first touch. They would all summit within an hour, photograph the moment, descend before the afternoon jet stream arrived. Straightforward. It did not happen that way. Ren traversed the upper couloir wall, front pointing on rock glazed with verglas. Each axe strike sent shards tinkling down like glass beads. Jules climbed behind, calling timing cues. 5 meters. 4. Good for here. His voice was oddly bright, forced, Ren noted, because the mountain soaked every sound, leaving it papery and small. She placed her final picket in a patch of stubborn snow, then swung across a narrow limestone ramp that spiraled toward the summit block. The ramp delivered her onto a ledge big enough for 2. She clipped in, exhaled. That was when she heard it. I'll ditch this slowpoke at the rappel. Faster solo? More acclaim. Sponsors want hero, not committees. The words arrived not in her head, but in the air beside her ear, crisp as speech. She jerked around. Nobody there. Jules was still below the corner, hidden from view. She stared at the empty ledge. Then, healing a 2-second delay, a softer echo. Ditch, slowpoke, acclaim. Ren's heart banged. The voice had been Jules's. Her mind raced. Hypoxia, auditory hallucinations, stress. Yet every expedition doctor said hallucinations were woven from memory, from inner voices adopting familiar tones. This phrase, however, was foreign. Jules had never called her a slowpoke. Jules, en belay, she called, throat tight. Climbing, came his reply, cheerful as ever. Wren braced herself as he emerged onto the ledge. Light glittered in his goggles. He flashed a grin. "Nice bit, Captain. My turn." She swallowed. "Copy." As she shifted aside to give him the sharp end, a flicker of suspicion crept under the harness of their friendship. He set off, tools biting rock with practiced efficiency. Wren fed rope, gaze pinned to his crampons, trying to ignore the chokehold around her thoughts. "I'll ditch the slowpoke." At 30 meters. Jules reached a vertical chimney and disappeared inside. Wren waited. The windless hush pressed inward until even her pulse seemed to echo inside the cuff of her hood. A minute later, Mara's labored breathing reached the ledge. She clicked herself in, cheeks red with exertion. God, that ramp was sketchy. She offered a fist, which Wren bumped by reflex. "Yeah," Wren said. "Listen, did you hear anything? Like an echo?" Mara raised an eyebrow. "Only you two talking. Why?" "Never mind," Wren murmured. Knowing it wasn't true, yet unable to explain, she turned back to the wall. Above, Jules's progress slowed. The rope inched, stopped, inched. Wren keyed the radio. Status, static. Then Jules's voice, tight. "Chimney choked with rime. Need to clear." Another pause. "Might rig a bolt." Wren considered the time. 10:14 a.m. Clouds smearing the western horizon. They could spare maybe 40 minutes. She glanced at Mara. Mara shrugged. "If he bolts that crack, we'll owe carbon offsets for the swearing." A small joke to ease tension. Wren tried to smile, then flinched as a new sound drifted across the ledge. Mara's voice, but wrong. Heard through an invisible speaker. All these years following Wren's caution. "Jules is right. She's the anchor around both our necks. Once he summits, I'll claim a twisted ankle, let them battle descent while I call base camp for extraction." Wren's lips parted. Mara, meanwhile, fussed with her gloves, unaware. The echo repeated quietly, "Anchor? Twisted ankle? Extraction." Wren stepped back, glacial nausea pooling in her gut. The mountain was mirroring thoughts, not sounds. Raw thinking leaked into the air, stripped of privacy, turned to echo. And both her partners were preparing to abandon her. Unless... No denial faltered. The voices had been clear, each laced with the speaker's cadence. Something deep in the limestone, or in whatever stratified caverns lay beneath, captured inner monologue and looped it like sonar. "Wren?" Mara asked. "You okay? Your face is pale." Wren forced her features steady. "Low sugar, that's all." Mara zipped a pocket and retrieved a gel pack. "Here." Concern softened her eyes. Real concern. Could those thoughts she'd heard be fleeting impulses? Expedition fatigue spawned dark fantasies in everyone. Wren herself had once pictured nudging a bragging teammate into a crevasse, only to shudder at her own cruelty seconds later. Thoughts did not always equal intent. But Jules' echo, faster solo, or a claim that sounded planned. Above the rope paid out again, Jules whooped. "Summit Ridge," he called, voice threading back into their radios. 5 minutes to tag the top." Sunlight poured over the rampart, gilding the spire. Wren found no awe in it now, only fear. She pictured Jules on the ridge, unclipping from their shared line, sprinting for the summit cone while news drones and gear companies later hailed his daring ascent. He might belay them up eventually, or not. If weather crashed, a stranded pair would let him play the hero. Mara squeezed Wren's shoulder. "Almost there." Wren inhaled. She unhooked a spare sling, clipped it to her belay loop, kept feeding rope as Jules advanced. Inside her mind, dozens of questions tangled like cord. Should she confront them? Pretend ignorance? Betray first? A scatter of snowflakes drifted from the suddenly gray sky. Afternoon weather was arriving early. "Jules," she radioed, "cloud deck thickening, tag and retreat, all right?" "Copy," he said, panting. "Nearly there." Silence. Then a triumphant cry. "Summit, 6,880 meters by altimeter." The rope went slack as he set an anchor. Wren waited for the customary acknowledgement that they were on belay, safe to follow. Nothing came. Instead, Jules's voice, hushed and private, seeped down the slope like spilled oil. Take the photos quick. Pack rope. If they're still on the wall when the storm hits, I'll say they chose to bivvy. Not my responsibility. The echo traced him. Photos quick. Not my responsibility. Wren bit hard on her tongue. Blood sparked iron on her taste buds. On belay? She asked aloud, toneless. A pause. Then Jules answered, too casual. Yeah, sorry. You're good. Fixed a nut. Wren locked the radio back onto her harness. Mara had not reacted. She must not have heard that psychic leakage. Maybe the phenomenon was directional, angle-dependent, and Wren happened to stand in the path. A cursed sweet spot. She met Mara's eyes. Listen carefully, Wren whispered. We don't have time for a full second pitch. I'll second to Jules. Set another anchor. You'll follow. Stay on my tail. Standard, Mara said, confused by Wren's urgency. Wren nodded, but her mind raced. If she led, she would reach Jules first, while Mara remained out of earshot. She started climbing, axes punching the chimney that Jules had cleared. Snow gusted now, feathering over her pack. 50 meters vanished under muscle memory and adrenaline. At the ridge crest, she found Jules kneeling at a prayer flag width of stone, camera and mitten grinning at his own feet. The plateau fell away on both sides, cloud boiling upward. Nice climb, he said, but his eyes flicked past her, searching for Mara. Wren anchored herself to a horn, clipped in. The summit block loomed 2 meters above them. Jules had not bothered to belay further. He simply scrambled and touched it, claiming precedence. That same eagerness gleamed now behind his smile, shark-like. Wren rested her axe. For a moment neither spoke. Wind began to whistle, garbling distance into white noise. She heard nothing in the air, no thought echoes. Perhaps the ridge geometry bent the effect elsewhere. Courage swelled. Why'd you turn off your radio after summiting? She asked. I didn't, he shrugged. Signal's spotty. Eyes still flicking down slope. Wren nodded slowly. And what's the plan for descent? Same route. Weather's fine. His voice lost its warmth, hardened into command. Where's Mara? On the wall, Wren said. Jules shifted, annoyed. She's too slow. There it was, spoken plainly now. Wren felt a brittle anger, yet she also recalled Mara's echo about faking an injury. Wren, the tie between them, the inconvenient witness to both. Footsteps arrived. Mara hauled herself onto the ridge, panting. View's gone to soup. Snow squalls swirled like phantom veils. Jules forced cheer. Congratulations, you two ready for your hero shots? They gathered at the rock nub that marked the high point. Wren insisted Jules shoot first. Camera angled to include both women, so he had to retreat a few paces. Clicks sounded. He then handed it to Wren to capture Mara. When it was Wren's turn, she watched Jules fumble with settings. Let's hurry, she said. Storm's on us. He lifted the camera. Through the lens, she saw him, but also something else, a shadow of calculation. The same look he'd worn arranging corporate backers. She lowered her axe invisibly against her leg, its pick braced on a foothold. I'm fine without this shot, Wren decided. You sure? Jules asked, already pocketing the device. Positive. She looped the rope around her arm. Let's descend, fast. Jules, lead rappel. He frowned. Why me? You're captain. Because, she answered evenly. I can't trust you unless I see you go first. The sentence slid from her like an ice screw turning. Mara's head snapped toward her. Jules blinked, then laughed too loudly. Paranoia up here, huh? Wren ignored the taunt and began building the rappel anchor herself, choosing bomber placements. Snow whipped harder, visibility shrank to 50 meters. She fixed 2 slings and threaded rope. Jules clipped his device but hesitated. I can downclimb, faster. Rappel, Wren repeated, voice carrying authority of contracts and insurance clauses, or I leave this anchor uncut. He cursed but swung over. Rope hissed through the device as he vanished into maelstrom. Mara shuffled closer. Wren, what's going on? Wren weighed honesty. Jules was still within earshot below. The mountain might echo private confessions, but perhaps that was the point. Truth voice would break whatever spell bound them. I heard your thoughts, Ren whispered. He heard his too. This peak repeats them as echoes. I know you considered faking an injury. I know he plans to abandon us. What? Mara's face contorted in disbelief. Hypoxia. Maybe, Ren said, but you just felt guilt spark when I said it, right? She held Mara's gaze. I'm not angry about the thought. I'm angry you might let it win. Decide now who you want to be. Mara's chest heaved. Snow caked her eyelashes. I was scared, she said, voice cracking. You set this impossible standard, Ren, and I can't keep up. Tears froze into tiny stars. Ren touched her glove to Mara's cheek. I said it for myself, not you. We finish as a team, or we don't finish. Below, Jules's rope tugged, thrice rappel complete. Ren backed up to the anchor, clipped in for her own descent. She looked at Mara. Your choice. Mara swallowed, nodded. Team. Ren moved over the edge. The chimney was now a wind tunnel. She fed rope, boots searching for purchase. Halfway down she heard Julo's voice, close beneath. Move, damn it. Weather's crashing. And you'll leave us? Ren shot back. Don't be absurd. But the mountain peeled open his mind again, his words spilled in echo. I could cut the rope, say windfall severed it. I'd survive. Ren landed on a ledge beside him. She unclipped, staring. You cut the rope? She asked quietly. Jules' eyes widened. What are you talking about? You thought it, she said. Snowflakes wheeled around them like orbiting ash. Jules shook his head, face half hidden by balaclava. You've lost it. Mara rappelled in, joining them. I heard it too, she said, shocking Ren. Perhaps the echo zone had shifted. Mara's gaze was molten with betrayal. Cut the rope? We trusted you. Jules backed away. This is nonsense. Ren stepped forward, gripping the rope between them. Prove it. Take tail position for the next pitch. Your life in our hands. No. Jules' crampons scraped. I'm the lightest. I should lead. Tail, Ren repeated, muscles coiled. Jules seemed to gauge the fight and the weather. He glanced at the couloir clouds had dropped further, whitening everything. Escape demanded cooperation. He exhaled. Fine. They set up the next rappel. Ren went first, anchoring, then Mara. Jules followed, grumbling. Each stage Ren orchestrated the same rotation. Jules last. The storm thickened but never unleashed full fury, as if the mountain watched their moral negotiation. Hours later they reached the plateau at the false summit. Dusk filtered through ravaged sky, painting snow iron gray. They erected the emergency tent in a shallow scoop, too exhausted to descend the glacier safely in darkness. Inside, stoves hissed, melting snow. Condensation beaded on orange nylon walls. Silence settled. Ren stripped gloves, fingers swollen and white. Jules hunched opposite, not meeting eyes. Mara sat between, acting as translator of hurt. The tense acoustics magnified every heartbeat. Finally, Ren spoke. We name this mountain Echo of Thought. Log it so no future climber comes unprepared. Jules snorted. If word spreads, no sponsor will touch the story. Ren shrugged. Maybe truth is worth more. Mara eyed them both. We could lie about what happened. Say weather forced retreat. Ren sipped tepid tea. I won't lie about betrayal, but I won't drag reputations either. All I'll record is that the peak reveals thoughts. That alone is caution enough. Jules rubbed temples, defeated. Even without proof, they'll say we hallucinated. Let them, Ren said. I know what I heard. The tent quivered. Ren's voice echoed softly just outside the fabric. I'm terrified this friendship is broken forever. They froze. The peak had found a way into the vestibule, translating confession again. Its echo repeated, broken forever. Ren closed her eyes. There, she whispered. Mountain won't let us lie to each other, or ourselves. Mara reached across, squeezed Ren's hand. Then let's not. Jules? He stared at his cup, then lifted it in shaky salute. I was wrong, he said, words raspy. Ambition got rabid. I'm sorry. He looked at Ren, then Mara. I didn't mean to cut anyone. I only... He stopped, throat closing. Echoes took over, finishing for him. I only wanted to matter. Always the sidekick, never the legend. No one mocked him. They let the thought hang, raw and real, until the mountain released it. Outside, wind finally resumed, burying their campsite in anonymous white noise like any other range. The high silence had spoken. Now it slept. They traded watches overnight, silent but united by fragile new oaths. At dawn, the storm cleared. They packed, roped up, and began the long descent, each step synchronizing again. Step, breathe, step, breathe. The peak faded behind lowering cloud, unnamed by committees, mapped only by those who had heard their own hearts echo against its stone. None of them ever returned, but in quiet moments afterward, at conferences, cafes, or alone above city skylines, they would sometimes cup a hand to their ear and imagine a whisper. It was not guilt they listened for, nor ambition, but a reminder. Some summits conquered the climber, not through avalanche or altitude, but by letting her hear herself. And once a mind has echoed on a mountain, it can never pretend silence again.